Hey, how's it going? I'm going to let a few people pile in, and I would love to talk about what's going on. My hope is that somebody can come on here and help me understand how any of this that is going on is acceptable or consistent with conservative beliefs or even America First. Because I think we've crossed into a new situation where this is requiring MAGA and its supporters to suspend 100% of what they had claimed to believe in, right? Like we have heard for years about how 2A exists to protect against this tyrannical overthrow, but here we are, and tyranny is here, and they're on the side of tyranny. So we're at this crux where I truly believe this is your turning point. Tongue-in-cheek comment, but this is the actual turning point of what we're going to be able to come back from. Like, I believe that the initial what happened to Charlie Kirk was basically the powder keg that welcomed up the willingness to justify violence against the others, and that's really what this boils down to, is creating an others. And when it started broad, right? It was the swamp. That was the enemy, right? That's how he got elected. And then when that started to lose its edge, it transferred into immigrants. And then there was the Muslim ban. And then it just kept escalating and escalating till we reached a point where there is a consistent moving goalpost of who the enemy is and why they're the enemy. When the reality is the people actually impacting and affecting their lives are the ones that they're voting for and defending. So we've created this situation where people have lost 100% of their class consciousness because they've believed that they have found a way to find a group that is below them. And honestly, that's the sad thing, because what this shows is that Americans and people in general are consistently in need of some group to oppose. LFJ, US, the Palestine. Just put that clear. But where we're at right now, we're in a situation where the others group is going to continue to grow, right? Because it started with illegal immigrants. That was the problem. The undocumented criminals that were committing crimes here in America without being documented. That was the initial grab, right? And it's very easy. It's very easy to get people to coalesce around the idea of a group being below them. People need that, right? A lot of MAGA, they're very. I don't want to sit here and fling too much mud, because I would like to bring somebody on to have some sort of reasonable discussion about this. Although I think we have reached a point where there is no reasonable defense of what is happening. You know what I mean? So it's so funny to see this whole idea about this law and this order, and they hate fraud, but they elected a fraud, they elected a felon, they elected somebody who was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein, someone who has no regard for our Constitution, but they pick and choose which laws drive them crazy, right? So now they care about civil offenses. Because let me explain something to you. At the core of what we're dealing with right now is people are upset about misdemeanors because they have put themselves in this situation where, as long as there is a group that you can feel superior to, you don't have to face your own inadequacies. Right? Like, I don't have an issue with undocumented immigrants, right? I've spent my entire life surrounded by diversity. I grew up in central New Jersey. We had people from all walks of life. I interacted with my neighbors and community members. I never once cared about their documentation. We were in a situation, right? I grew up around Dominicans and Puerto Rican. Well, Puerto Ricans obviously are natural U.S. citizens, but I didn't ask my Dominican friends how they got here. They were no impedance to my liberty and my life and my freedom and my happiness. So, here we are sitting, and these people have been given their words, right? Communist, liberal, anti-American. They weaponize phraseology because they cannot defend this on its face, right? Remember that whenever you engage somebody that is an adequate defense and justification of what happened, they do not have an original thought. Their entire belief system is antagonizing and causing issues and being combative because it's a projection of insecurity. They don't like what they see in the mirror. They don't like the thoughts that are inside their head. They don't like how they truly feel about themselves. So rather than coming close to that and accepting that, they found this identity in Donald Trump, right? And they pretend that they don't like crime and they care about law and order, but they don't. You know what I mean? They don't. And the problem is I remember when Obama was president, right? And they said deporter in chief and oh, this and that, and Obama did the same thing. And look, there's a lot to be said about what happened under Obama. A lot of us have held this position pretty consistent that there needs to be some sort of pathway to either permanent residency or citizenship that's based on, you know, the content of your character. And to give them a humane pathway, a way that they can become members of our country legally and enrich us, right? Because we're not other countries. People always refer to these other countries, but we don't we have indigenous people here, right? And that land was taken and colonized, okay? So that's a fact. And then the people who came here legally, right, the white Europeans, there was no visas. There were no immigration laws. You put your feet on the ground, welcome. You know, and then over time, there's always been this sort of acceptance that immigrants make our country great. Even like conservatives like George H.W. Bush and George W. and Ronald Reagan, did they, like, to be quite honest, did they ever have a compassionate policy on immigration? No, they didn't. But they had this understanding that agitating and rounding these people up, costing us tons of money, does not have a net positive on society. And then around 2016, now Obama, right? Deporter in chief, right? That's what they called him. He turned away a lot of people at the border. And in fact, I remember a lot of MAGA is young. I remember Republicans scoffing at his deportation numbers because their idea of turning away at the border shouldn't be considered a deportation. So Obama was saying, look, I'm doing something about the problem, you know, and they said, oh, this doesn't count. But the reality was there was a priority on criminals, right? And we created this program, DACA, the Dreamers, and we told these people, we know that you enrich our country, and we know that we are a better country with you here, you know. And there was no, you know, you guys are the life breath of what America is a coalition of different cultures and ideals in this figurative melting pot. And he created these compassionate programs, right? And then we found ourselves flip into this Trump era where it became zero tolerance family separation. And we saw children in cages, and he saw that that did not rattle his base. They simply did not care about that because they were given their talking points. They were told how to oppose it. They were taught to dehumanize these people. And you'll see them, they'll chirp, they'll jump in the chat, they'll type away, they'll pretend, you know, oh, ICE has been around for 20-something years. You're right, it has. But now it's funded more than any military in the world. It's been deputized and given immunity and sent into cities with the purpose of agitating. And these people, they repeat things that they're told, right? They don't actually look at the statistics. They follow whatever the talking heads, whatever the Russian bot tells them, whatever their psyop projecting podcast flavor of the week that they subscribe to. And they get told, oh, there were open borders for 4 years. Oh, we had this, and Joe Biden left 10 million and 20 million and 30 million. And like the numbers just keep going up. And then they talk, oh, Biden deported more than Trump. And so there's no consistency to their argument, right? They believe that, you know, 10% of the US population right now came over the border in 4 years, okay? And then they want to have the gall to talk about laws, right? They want to talk about laws while supporting Epstein's best friend, a guy who is just rife with criminality, somebody who has been consistently found guilty of crimes and been alleged to have committed infinitely more, but because their identity is so tied into this extremely flawed and deranged man, you will never be able to separate them from it. You know, and like, that's the thing. If you mention Trump's involvement with Epstein, where do they go? Bill Clinton, right? Bill Clinton, who has asked for complete transparency, and you're never going to see any Democrat, any run-of-the-mill liberal defending Bill Clinton. Most of us don't like Bill Clinton. Most of us despise Bill Clinton for far less than what his Epstein involvement. We find him reprehensible just for what he did to Monica, right? That was an abuse of power. He ruined that girl's life. So this idea that we're sitting here cozying up and defending Bill Clinton, why don't you defend the merits of Trump's criminality without whataboutism? They do not have the ability to, you have to remember this, that you're engaging a cult. And I sometimes believe that we have this ability to kind of bridge the gap and try and appeal to maybe that little fleck of humanity that they have left. But it's just the hypocrisy, right? Like, I can already see in the chat, right? Why didn't Biden and Kamala release the files? Beep, boop, beep, 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 boop. It takes 30 seconds on Google to know why that didn't happen, right? And it's a two-parter. Okay, one, the files were under the courts in appeal processes for Ghislaine until the very end of Biden's presidency. And then at that point, much to the chagrin of almost every liberal and every voter, Biden still respected that precedence of a separation between the DOJ and the executive branch, right? You appoint your attorney general and you allow them to operate autonomously because it's a conflict of interest. Trump is the one that walks forward and decide to start using the DOJ as his personal attorney. So the files left the courts and then were in the hands of Christopher Wray, Donald Trump's FBI appointee. And what's the issue? You know what I mean? All of a sudden, think about this, right? Let me explain this to you. Okay, first off, they say Dementia Joe and Joe Biden and his mental acuity should be called into question. And this guy's up there grunting and making noises and rambling and misspeaking and babbling and drooling on himself. He's in a diaper. But the problem is they can't get out of this car. Because how do you reckon with the fact that you spent 10 years obsessed with this man just to find out that you were grifted by some absolute psychopath? You know, it's one of those situations where we have to reckon with reality. And they're never going to reckon with reality. There's no world where you're ever going to see them, real quick, National Socialist, yeah, you're muted. You're never going to see this position where they cross over because, again, this isn't about logic, right? We've tried engaging them. You could show them why the economic policy doesn't benefit them. They never cared about eggs. This is what they voted for. MAGA is quite literally getting what they voted for. They voted for brutality and they voted for cruelty, and they're getting it and they're happy. And what they can't do is say that outright. They don't have the ability to comfortably say, like, this is what's going on, and we voted for people to be brutalized so that we can feel better about themselves. What they have to do is download those talking points. They have to sit there and they have to listen to extremely flawed fake journalists as they tell them what to say, how to spin it. And that's why if you truly try engaging the most rabid of MAGA, you're not going to get a back and forth. They're going to say what they were coached to say, which is quite literally what you'll see in the chat, right? They're all repeating the same thing. Like, it's just bots. These are Russian bots. They say all the same things. Why didn't Biden release the files? Kamala Harris opened the border. Blah, 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 blah. It's all the same thing. They don't have original thoughts. So when you press them on them or you confront them with receipts, you're going to get a laugh react and then a slur because it's all they have. This is a extremely emotional movement. When you realize how emotional MAGA is and what it is built on, it is 100% emotions. If Donald Trump came forward and laid out his economic plan and spoke about exactly, which he didn't have a plan. He talked about Arnold Palmer's penis. He talked about electrocuting sharks and windmills. He was up there babbling. But again, they knew that brutality would happen if they voted for him. They knew that there would be an increasing number of the others. And that was all they really cared about. So now we're in this situation where if you laid out exactly what Donald Trump was going to do, if he told them economically how this was going to progress and what situations would culminate from his tariffs and his policies and where he was going to allocate all of our tax money and ballooning the deficit and increasing our debt and devaluing the US dollar, which is 100% going to happen if he keeps saber rattling with NATO. We're going to find ourselves in a situation where they will make less money, they will be broke, they will own nothing, but they will be so happy that there are still groups that are being disenfranchised and harmed that they're willing to accept that. And that, my friends, is what an emotional movement is. When you are willing to put those drummed up feelings from a manufactured culture war that was packaged and sold to them to distract them from the fact that we are in a full-blown oligarchy and billionaires are taking over their lives and purchasing all the property and buying all the infrastructure and acquiring the companies and the monopolization of all of our businesses. And we're going to wind up where we're owned by 10 people. But as long as the trans people weren't allowed to go in that bathroom, as long as some Honduran that's working at a pizzeria was brutalized on the street by masked goons, by lunatics, they support secret police now. They support people, American citizens, being unalived in front of cameras in broad daylight. They support that because they have to. And because they're showing us who they are and what they actually voted for. I remember, the price of eggs and gas and 401ks. You guys don't have 401ks. You guys don't care about gas prices. You guys don't understand the economic implications or how even global economic, look at how they responded to inflation, right? Remember, Biden inflation, Biden did this. And if you came up to him and said, hey, name the policy that Joe Biden signed, name the law, name the executive action that increased our gas prices, that caused this to happen, they can't name it because they were told what to say and think. And that's the situation that we're in. You have people without any original thought. They don't have any logical defense of what's going on. So they are simply indebted to this movement to the point where the president can sit here and expand expand. I'm going to bring somebody on, a guy who just said, when I'm done crying, big guy. I'm going to tell you right now before I bring you on, here's the rules. Slurs, you're gone. If you start yelling, you're gone. No one wants to hear you guys scream. That's all you guys do. You scream at your families, you scream at cameras, you scream in your trucks. If you want to have a rational discussion and find a way why you support the execution of American citizens by secret Gestapo at the hands of a child predator, so be it. But I didn't really plan on bringing people in here. I planned on talking. You could rage in the comments, but I'm here to get some things off my chest. And I'm here to let people know that we're not all us angry white guys are cut from the same cloth. So I'm going to bring you on, Hostegel. I don't have a lot of faith that you're going to be able to have a good engagement, but let's see what you have to say, because there's no defense of this. This really isn't a debate. Here we go. How you doing, man?
Better than you.
All right. I'm doing better than you. I'm not the one
You are
defending
having
a child
a
predator.
hissy fit right now.
All right. Tell me what's on
So
your...
just take a second. Just let's breathe in
Don't talk to me like that,
and
dude.
breathe out.
I'm not your family. You don't get to get abused.
Yeah. Just breathe in and breathe out.
Do you have something to say?
Yeah. So all this performative outrage from the left and you guys is not like going to help you guys at all. Like it'll get you followers on TikTok and that's great, but in the real world, like we've seen this act before. It's not effective anymore. People are waking up to the BS that you guys put on.
No, they're not.
And it's
You guys are
just,
hemorrhaging
again,
support.
just
You lost any
performative, fake, and
wins.
gay.
It's not performative to care about human lives, man. What's performative, you
No,
don't
you
know what
don't
performative
care.
is
You,
because you
but you don't.
guys don't actually care about how you look. Like, I'm not going to sit here, oh, be quiet, blah, 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 blah. They're all the same. They're abusers, right? They're just abusive guys in their nature. The only thing that they know how to do is denigrate their opponent, pretend that everything except them is emotional. We're all good, dude. I gave you a minute to talk. I'm not going to hear I don't need to hear from Freedom Eagle about why I need to stop being performative for being upset as American citizens are being unalived in the street without due process and for no reason. We have two deceased Americans, two people, several people that would be alive if you guys didn't fall for worshiping Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. So I'm really all set. You guys, you scream in your cars, you all say the same thing. This isn't a debate. I'm not going to sit here and have a debate about which human lives are more valuable, right? Let me explain to you what my politics are. If a child is hungry, we feed him. That is my policy, right? If somebody needs to find some sort of group that they need to dehumanize, you are not going to sit on here and dehumanize human beings to me. We're just not going to do it. Like, I'm willing to hash it out with anybody and discuss, the facts, discuss reality, discuss economic impact. You want to talk about tariffs, we could do that. You want to talk about foreign policy, we can do that. We can have that, but we're not going to talk about the situations where people are being I want to use the word, where people are being removed from their families by force and brutalized and zip-tied. I don't feel safer because a child is in handcuffs. I do not feel safer because a guy who was doing nothing but trying to work. Let me explain something to you. These people contribute more than most of you. That is the fact, right? Because they will use less services than they contribute. They generate billions of dollars in revenue. This isn't about the law. This isn't about law and order and enforcement. Donald Trump knows that he has absolutely no ability to sell his ideas to you because they don't benefit you. They benefit him and his friends. He's enriched himself in the office of the presidency. He has handed over the reins of everything to his billionaire buddies while you make less, but he gave you a culture war. Think about what this man does. Every single day he wakes up and fans the flames, and he does everything he can. Obama was deporting people, right? No one really complained. There were people that protested Obama for it. And people like to sit there and go, oh, Obama did. Yes, and people were interrupting him. Leftists were going into his speaking engagements and challenging him on the deportations. And you know what he said? You're right. The law is messed up and we need to change it, but we have to enforce it. The other thing, too, is I don't remember Obama deputizing them and giving them complete immunity and sitting here handing them, billions of dollars to just launch into our cities and agitate people and tear gassing citizens in their, now they're talking that they can just enter your home. So you guys don't care about the Fourth Amendment. You don't care about the Second Amendment because you get upset whenever there's a lawful firearm owner standing outside protecting their property. You don't actually care about the Castle Doctrine. You don't care about free speech because you don't really, that's been out the window. You support the stripping of visas for people who critique a foreign government. So none of this was ever real. You guys called yourself constitutionalists simply for the ability to say slurs and hold a weapon that you can use on delivery drivers or your wives. That's just what you guys really revered the Constitution for. So it's the chirping, the yelling. You guys aren't able to get to me, right? Because I know that at some point history books are going to be written and I won't be in them, right? But they're going to have two groups. That's how it's going to be seen, right? There's going to be the people that opposed fascism, okay? And historically, we know that this is real, and they will be seen as the victors, because I truly believe that good will triumph from this. I have to, or what's the point of life? And you guys will be remembered as slugs. And guess what? Historically, in every single time that we have come to a turning point, or we have had to overcome or find some kind of progress, there is always a core group, mostly men, mostly white men, okay, who have to resist that progress, who have to stand firm and choose the atrocity. And guess what? That's your historical role. You have to exist. There has to be a whole bunch of you. But guess what? You are not the majority. You are not the majority. You are a small, loud minority. And that is a fact. The guy has the lowest approval rating, and whenever he sees that, it's fake. He's lost the independents. Much of the young people have turned their back on him. Not all of them, but at the end of the day, if you will never be able to get them all, because guess what? No matter how much money you lose, no matter how much this, hold on. I lost myself. No matter how much money you guys lose, no matter how destitute life gets, you will still prioritize your hatred over your own well-being. You know, you got these guys sitting there, you guys have children, right? These are girl dads. You know, I'm a girl dad. If anyone hurts my daughter, blah, 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 blah. But guess what? You elected a guy who is on video sexualizing his own daughters and sexualizing little girls and running his teen pageants and best friends with child traffickers. Like, so you don't even care about the protection of little girls. You just know that, much like every other fascist movement in history, that if you appeal to very low information people and can convince them that there's a group coming for their children, they will co-sign absolutely anything. And that's where we've hit, right? Your hatred is not of immigrants and trans people. Your hatred is of yourself. He gave you a scapegoat, and you're going to hold on to that dearly, because if you have to let go from the fact that these people are not impacting your life negatively or harming you, then you have to come to the realization that your lifelong of failures is a result of your own actions. And that is what MAGA cannot reckon with, is that your actions are the reason why you don't have a boat. It has nothing to do with the guy down the street cutting a lawn, or somebody who's making your pizza. These are good people. These are good humans. In fact, they share more of our values. We took all their land. I mean, Texas, California, Arizona, that's all Mexican land. The culture, have any of you guys ever been to Mexico? Have you engaged these people? I speak some pretty good Spanish. I had a Cuban stepmother growing up. I lived in New Jersey. If anyone's from there, I lived one town over from Perth Amboy. So I've been around Latinos my whole life. And guess what? I've been engaging Mexican and South American and Central Americans my entire life. And guess what? They're very much aligned with what your conservative ideals are, right? They believe in family. They love Jesus. They like their cowboy hats and their boots. And I'm not trying to speak of them as a monolithic group, but there's so many of these people that you guys have such a core alliance with. But because there is that language barrier, they knew how easy it was to get you guys to hate them. It's so simple. And here we are now, we're 10 years in. And now we're asking you guys, hey, do you think maybe the elimination of human life on the streets is a bad idea? Oh, the illegals. Well, these people are not affecting you. They are fundamentally not affecting you. But you have to believe that they are, because you already have justified fascism. You welcomed it in, and here it is. And now you have to pretend that you're getting what you voted for. You have to. Because how do you say no? You know, and it's these things where these people have been convinced, you know, like I just saw a comment, was Obama a fascist? No, he wasn't, right? He was deeply flawed. He was a corporatist, like most Dems, but you guys don't even know what fascism is. Like, that's the issue, right? The right wing is like, fascism is when a thing happens I don't like, right? Fascism is when a law is passed. No, fascism is a consolidation of authoritarian power to the executive branch, coupled with ultranationalism and nativism, right? This whole America first. But guess what? It's not America first, right? It really isn't. Like, that was a giant LARP. Now it's expansionist. Now America involves Greenland. Now America is Venezuela. And you guys can just clap and you guys get excited. And I'm looking at these comments, right? And you guys are all the same person. Like, I don't even know where one of you leave and another one comes in. I don't say, I've been called fat. I've been called names. I'm told I'm gay. Dude, I don't care if you call me gay. Like, that's not an insult. Like, oh, this guy's queer. Dude, that's only an insult to homophobes. And homophobia is not fear of gay people. It's fear of your own gay thoughts. So I bet your beliefs don't match your browser history, but you coming at me and calling me gay and this and soft and blah, you can't get me, man. I'm very comfortable with who I am. That's why I don't need Jeffrey Epstein's best friend to validate my rage and give me enemies. I'm extremely comfortable with who I am, man. I've done extreme work on myself, and I'm still extremely flawed, and I have a lot of problems. But you know what? I didn't put a child predator in the office that wears a diaper. Okay, I don't have to worry about my grandchildren one day reading a book and wondering why grandpa was a monster. And all they know how to do, oh, you're emotional, you have feelings. MAGA is an emotional movement. Like, you guys don't have any other feelings, right? Like, we can easily break down everything you believe in because it's groomed and taught to you. I remember, oh, groomers and this and indoctrination. What you're mad about is that the facts don't align with you. All the liberals think the same. Yeah, because we read studies, we read scientific consensus, right? We deal with reality. Whereas for you, this is pure emotions, right? This is the man told me this, the man told me that. You guys get told how to think and feel. You're the ultimate betas. Like, what is more beta than waking up every day, seeing a current event, and then waiting for some smarmy teenager with a microphone to tell you how to think and feel about it? You all have the same talking points. There's no originality. You have no ability to even, you know what, I don't even want to hear anybody today. Because you know what, here's the problem. I'm open to a debate, but you'll see up here I'm not welcoming a debate. I'm here to talk at you and most likely past you. And if that's a problem, so be it. Chirp in the comments, yell, call me names, you know, whatever, man. I'm talking to my people. I'm talking to humans. I'm talking to Americans here. I want people that sit here and know that we all don't have to act like that. This is the fundamental issue that we're dealing with. You guys have found yourselves in a situation where you do not have any beliefs. You don't believe in anything anymore. We know this to be true, okay? You all say the same thing. You have absolutely no idea. The entire world is laughing at you, okay? The entire world is wondering how this actually happened. Like, we have been sitting here. I was in Europe this summer, right? My wife and I went to Ireland. People, like, very much were cold shoulder until they find out we're not one of them. You guys wouldn't know because you don't travel except that family vacation to Florida where you smear yourselves in sunscreen and scream at your kids on a boardwalk. But the reality is for those of us who travel the world, no one's jealous of us. They're fearful. We hate the idea that 20,000 guys who shit their pants in Wisconsin have the ability to decide the security of Europe. Like, this is a very flawed system. But, you know, you guys, this is just what you signed up for. You are extremely comfortable in this ignorance. You know what I mean? Everything he does is a hypocritical action. Nothing he does aligns with what he sold you on. But again, as I've said numerous times, this is why an emotional movement works. Do you know why liberals turned on Barack Obama? Because he wasn't, a lot to be said, but he wasn't able to come through on a lot of things that he promised us. We looked for hope and change. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bash Obama. I know that there's other things at hand. He was resisted by his own party. He was blockaded by the Republicans. They wouldn't even let him pick a Supreme Court justice. They denied him his constitutional right to that. But a lot of us, liberals and leftists, got very angry at Obama for not doing what he said he would do. But you guys, he doesn't think anything of you. Donald Trump and his PSYOP team and his Russian bot farms, they know how emotional you are. And they know that they can lie to you. They know that they can mislead you. They know that they don't have to deliver on their promises. And they know that you will continue to eat it up as long as they weave in some sort of rhetoric. Take a look at what Trump does whenever his tariffs are shown to be detrimental to the American people. What does he say? Men and women's sports. He gives you guys those buzz phrases. Do you understand that Donald Trump uses short little phraseology, not only because he's mentally deficient, but also because he knows his supporters are. He knows that the very best thing that you could be is stupid. Everything else is abhorrent. If you still support Donald Trump in 2024, the best case for you is that you are shockingly stupid. Like that's the upper echelon, is you being stupid. Everything else is just a complete moral decay. If you can look at this and find it justified, so be it. You can sit here and you can clap and you can cheer for that sweaty bag of wet McDonald's because he makes you feel justified in your hatred. And here you are. Look, exactly what I just said. Okay, exactly what I just said happened, right? I told them no matter what happens, they will wind up with some sort of emotional argument. And someone just in the chat says the party that says men can have babies. Like, these are the semantics, right? This is his justification. So he is more concerned that language evolves and that sociology evolves and our social understanding of gender identity is way more complex and that biological sex is not even a binary and that there's a myriad, there's intersex, there's all of these different expansions when it comes to the understanding of science, right? And because they are just stuck with second grade understanding of everything, they reject it. And guess what? Trump knows that. He knows that you guys will sit there and go men and women's sports, men and women's bathrooms. They know that that is enough to get you to absolutely destroy your children's future. They know that's enough for you to surrender your autonomy and your liberty and your mothers and your daughters and your sisters to billionaires and to oligarchs and to people who want to virtually enslave you. They know that all they have to do is get you to chirp and yap about these stupid wedge issues that have no impact on your life. Trans people have been using the bathroom forever. They want to get in and get out, just like all of us. There's no situation where they go, I'm going to just go through a full transition so that I can brutalize children in a bathroom. You know who hurts children in bathrooms? The people who say that. Statistically speaking, I feel more comfortable with an entire drag show in the bathroom with a child than just one of you, because that's the issue. How many times do you guys get busted for being exactly what you say you're against? It is the ultimate hypocrisy. You do not care about children. You don't care about women. You will sit there, think about it. What do they do? Oh, Lake and Riley, oh, and all these people. And guess what? What happened to them was absolutely horrendous. It was disgusting. It was abhorrent. But it was not his documented or undocumented status. It was the fact that more than likely one of you will do it and you'll justify it. You guys blame victims. You tell women they're too emotional. You dismiss their concerns. You do all of that. And then in the other breath, you want to sit there because you could politicize it. It's not because of the victim. It's because of the attacker. You don't care about victims. You don't care about any of them. You never have. You don't care about the Epstein victims. You don't care about the women who came forward about Donald Trump. The guy on video said that he sexually assaults married women, and you say, oh, that's locker room talk. Well, guess what, bro? I don't want to be in that fucking locker room. What locker room do people high-five each other over groping and sexually assaulting women? Your locker rooms. That's who you guys are. That's what you justify, and that's what you believe in. So spare me your selective outrage when you find one isolated situation where you could take something terrible that happens to a defenseless woman and politicize it for your own personal gain. You don't care about Lake and Riley because she was harmed. You care because her attacker is part of a group that you have projected all of your insecurities and hatred on. You don't care that per capita they commit less crimes than citizens. You don't care that they contribute more tax money than they use. You don't care about any of that. You don't have beliefs. You don't have ideals. You don't have truths. What you have is a cult, and what you have is a safety blanket. You have this understanding that as long as I'm told what to say, I can continue to justify my terrible decisions to put Jeffrey Epstein's best friend in the highest position in the world. Everything about it. You guys will sit there and pretend to care about the victims. Give me a break. Look at what they say. Ashley Biden's diary, right? So an unsubstantiated document that you found online, a picture that we don't know if it's real or true. But guess what? I'm not going to defend Joe Biden. I am not going to defend Joe Biden. What I'm going to do is say that, hey, guess what? Men in power hurt people. That is something that we know to be true. That is a real statistic, that when men get power and money, they do harm. But what I will say is that diary entry is 100% unsubstantiated. The diary was real, but that entry has never been substantiated. And Ashley Biden herself has never come forward and said it. But guess what? That is enough for you to completely convict Biden and see him as a child predator. But your own guy is on video talking about his daughter's bodies and sexualizing them, and guess what? You don't care. So again, selective outrage. You pick and choose when female victims are able to be used by you as some sort of overarching critique on groups of people. It's all that situation. You talked about mental health. Oh, we have a mental health problem. We have a mental health problem. But then when a mentally ill black man in North Carolina, I believe it was North Carolina, might have been South Carolina, killed a girl, all of a sudden it wasn't about mental health. It was crimeless liberals and blah, 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 and this man and this and blah. But meanwhile, she was a Ukrainian immigrant, and just a month ago you were saying all them need to get the hell out of the country. But guess what? She was white and blonde, and maybe you thought she was pretty, because that matters to you, looks. You guys don't care if they don't fit the constraints of conventional beauty. By then you just dehumanize them, right? If they get a septum ring, you all of a sudden believe their opinions don't matter, that their bodily autonomy is negligible. So don't give me this. Don't give me this. Don't try to act human when you support inhumanity. Don't try to act like you guys have any compassion. You don't even treat your families well. You don't even take care of your kids. You're notoriously terrible fathers. You're notoriously terrible husbands. Most of your wives dream of being able to get away from you. And at the end of the day, you're sitting there. Well, I don't even understand how anybody would want to marry into MAGA. I mean, there's like a 90% chance you guys are going to cheat on them with a teenager or another man. You're all deeply repressed. You're all deeply closeted, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? A lot of guys have those thoughts in their head, and how you respond to them decides who you are. You know, if it's fear, if it's anger because society told you that you have to be a masculine alpha when you truly are not, that's a heavy pill to swallow. So your issue is not that people are gay. You hate that they don't have to repress it like you do. So when you see them in the streets living their truths and feeling free and celebrating their identity, you're just jealous. You're mad that you have to sit there at home and cosplay as this alpha straight male, and that they get to go live what you do in the dark, right? Listen, I've had gay friends my entire life. You guys all sneak around. Okay, I cannot tell you how many of you tough alpha MAGA dudes that use all these homophobic slurs online and project, you all sneak off. You know you do. And sometimes when I interact with you guys and you guys are getting extra homophobic, I just say to you, do you delete the app or do you hide it? Because we all know you're on there. No profile picture, DL straight. Let me guess. That's you? That's you? Yeah, that's you. Soon as the wife goes away, you know? So this whole idea that we're in this situation because you guys have such a concern about culture and about American values. You don't value anything. You don't believe in anything. You believe in your emotions. And he knew that. He knew that he can get you if he was emotional, if he knew to prey on those emotions. And now you're here. And now you're just sitting here. You guys ramble in the comments. You yell. You say things you don't believe in. You can't defend any of it. You don't ever. I've tried. You go back and forth with you guys, and you just sit there and laugh, react, and then harm people, and then defect to the slurs, those safety blankets, that ability to just go, you confronted me. You never can peel back the layers with you guys because you don't have layers. You're not onions. You're not cheesecakes. Okay, you're donuts. You're just balls of dough with a giant hole in your soul. That's what you are. And you know what? You could get mad at me because that's all you know how to do is rage. And instead of directing it at yourself or directing it at your own failures and lack of accomplishments, you'll project it onto me. You'll harm me. You think that you can harm me. It's not possible, my friend. It's absolutely impossible. So you could chirp, you could call me names. Guess what? I'm going to look in the mirror today and know that I do not sit online and simp for Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. I'm going to know that when the brown shirts went in and started harming my fellow American citizens, I hopped on this camera and spoke against it. Am I changing minds? No. But what I am doing is showing people that there's more of us out there than you, because you guys are not the majority. You're just the loudest. You're just the most rambunctious. You're just the ones who yell and scream, and most of you are bots. So most of it's not even real. So I'm not trying to, people are going to sit and say, oh my God, you talk so much. I'm just getting warmed up. I'm not going to sit here all day, but I could go for 12 hours on this, and I could bring you guys on, and we can go back and forth, and you could sit there and go, well, they shouldn't have came here illegally, and your selective outrage, and you pick and choose which laws bother you. But at the end of the day, you don't care that Donald Trump abused women and children, but you care that a man at a laundromat didn't file some paperwork. That's what you care about. That's your issue. You're a fraud. You're a fake. You're a fraud. You're empty. And history will not remember you as alphas. They'll remember you as monsters. And that's going to be something that you have to reckon with, unless you are blessed enough to remain ignorant until you move on from this life. And then we will just all call you a slug in private. But you one day you're going to have to, I really hope some of you just have to face that mirror, the mirror you avoid, right? You don't like your reflection. You don't like what you see. You don't like those thoughts that you have to suppress. You don't like that these societal constructs of what masculinity are don't truly fit you. I do everything you guys do. I fish. I like target shooting. I'm into metal. I'm into hip hop. I'm into punk rock. I'm into all that aggressive male masculine stuff. But guess what? Masculinity is supposed to be about leveraging those strengths to stick up for the marginalized, to stick up for the weaker. I'm not going to say women. I'm not going to say any specific groups. But if you want to be a masculine man and you want to lean into that and you want to be seen as tough, stick up for the people that can't stick up for you. That can't stick up for themselves, sorry. And that's really where that strength comes, because there's no strength in punching down. And that's all you guys do. You don't care. You got fooled into picking the wrong 1%, right? 1% of the population owns us. They control us. And then you leverage the Bible. You don't read the Bible. You've never read it. I bet, I could post a fake Bible verse online right now and you would like it and share it. I could get you to put crustaceans 1738 in your bio if I could convince you that the verse means women shouldn't be allowed to wear pants. That is how fragile you are. You've never read the book, because guess what? I went to Catholic school as a kid, and those nuns don't align with anything you guys say. I don't remember, Sister Gloria sitting there and going, in here in the letter to the Byzantines, it says that women shouldn't be able to drive, or that, these persons should be burned at the stake. You guys don't believe in the Bible, right? What you've done is you've found yet another tool, another way to disparage others. Because guess what? I know some Christians, and they don't share how you guys operate. They don't live how you guys live. If you want to see what Christianity really looks like, take a look at black churches, right? They're the ones that give donations, that take care of the poor, that bring people in, that give them hugs and a plate of food. That's real Christianity, because they relied on Christianity and their God to protect them from you, which you guys use that same word to attack them. And that is the major difference. And that's why I do not think Christianity is the problem. I think what you guys have done with it and how you've leveraged it simply as a tool to exert power and control over groups of people, because you don't have power and control over yourself or your life or your thoughts. Everything that you cannot control, that you wish to control, has left you with a vacuum. It's an empty void deep inside of you. And the only way that you can satiate that emptiness is by finding a group to hate, because hatred is your safety blanket. It's a projection. It's how you can take what is deep inside of your soul that you hate and push it onto somebody else, because none of the facts support you. Nothing. None of the data supports you. None of reality supports you. So this is just an emotional movement, and you've alienated your friends, and you've alienated your loved ones, and you've caused friction, and you're laugh reacting Martin Luther King posts, and you're mad about black Barbies and mermaids and syrup bottles and the Cracker Barrel logo, and you don't like the NFL because one guy said he doesn't want to stand during a song you like. You're emotional. You're absolutely emotional, and your boycotts do nothing. You're not even effective. You're not even a large enough group to impact anything. Budweiser's doing fine. Target's doing fine until Target turned their back on DEI. And then look what happened. They had a downturn, because you know what? Everything you guys believe in, you're not that large. You're a small group. You're just frustrated small men and women who have decided to prioritize your whiteness and your illusion of power over the humanity of others. And guess what? We're not with you. That's why I'm not bringing people on. I have loved, historically, the last few lives that I've done, I've always liked to bring people on, and you try to appeal to their humanity. And we talked about Venezuela last week, and we talked about these other hot button issues, and we talked about that, and we hashed it out, and we had our discussions. And I never concede ground, but I understand where like their thought process is. I don't agree with it, but you know, I'm a straight white cis man, so I can understand that programming. I know those constructs. I know what the toxic masculine overarching ideology entails. It's the same ones that called me slurs as a kid or made fun of me for not being able to play football. I could care less. You know, it affected me then. So I know how deep run this is and how it's weaved into your soul. So you can't debate me, because I'm not willing to bring somebody on here that's going to dehumanize people, and we're not going to debate the sanctity of life. We're not going to talk on issues that neither of us are qualified to speak authoritatively on. This is a very simple line in the sand, man. I do not believe that people should be getting unalived in the middle of the streets by masked goons, by federal agents swarming in, you know, and it's this idea, you know, I just saw a comment, I'm dehumanizing people. Correct. You guys have lost your humanity. Okay, that is what warrants it. There's no group of people that you guys hate that have directly used their power to inflict harm and death on others based off of a manufactured culture war. You guys have all the power. You're right. You're not human to me anymore. If you can sit there and watch a mother get executed in her car in front of her family, if you can watch a man get in broad daylight get removed from this world, you do not have any humanity, my man. We are not the same. I'm not willing to see you as human. You know, when Charlie Kirk got hurt, okay, you know, and I can't say the word. I'm still learning the TikTok filters. I've already been flagged. I'm already not being recommended. I've lost, you know, so I'm not trying to bury it too much deeper. But when what happened to Charlie Kirk happened, the vast majority of liberals were mortified, right? A lot of us don't like brutality. While we didn't like him or anything he said, and we understand that his rhetoric created that situation, we still didn't think that somebody should be executed. Now you're going to say, oh, I saw people, blah, 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 do this. Correct. And by the way, he was got by a groiper. Okay, you guys are oh, you're the trans. Yeah, you're all very secret closeted. So the whole idea that he was had any sort of like homosexual or pansexual activity on the side, that you all do. So stop with the whole, oh, you're the trans girlfriend, he must be a liberal. No, that's not it. You guys fetishize everybody. But my issue is that when that happened, the vast majority of us there was a humane response, right? I don't want to see somebody get assassinated on a live broadcast. I just don't want to see that, no matter how it is, because there's something about seeing that hits that humanity in me. Now, you'll see there were people on there that made fun of it. Absolutely, that's what the internet does. That's what internet culture is. But those people that did that are cut from the same cloth as you, right? You're sitting up here thinking that this is an even exchange. This was after years of George Floyd memes. This was after you guys laughing about when Heather Heyer, I hope I'm not saying her name wrong, died in Charlottesville. This is you guys who sat there and justified some teenager going over state lines with a weapon and executing people. And sure, maybe some of them had criminal records, but that doesn't mean they're sentenced to death by Officer Rittenhouse. So you guys have been dehumanizing people for years. You have made fun of, let me explain something to you, and I'm going to say this. You guys make fun of I Can't Breathe. That was something that when I saw that happen years ago, and look, I'm from New Jersey, right? That happened right over the bridge in New York City. And watching a grown man beg for his life and repeatedly say he can't breathe 13 times while an officer put him down like a dog for selling cigarettes, and you guys made fun of that, and you want me to be upset, you want me to sit here and feel bad about dehumanizing you? You dehumanized yourselves. You were the ones who surrendered your humanity. You were the ones that, in the interest of self-preservation, decided that other groups need to be harmed. Like, that was what you guys did. This is a radical acceptance of your choices. I didn't say this about you guys in 2016. I thought you were stupid for voting for that fraud. You know, being from New Jersey, I mean, people in New York and New Jersey know what Donald Trump is, right? He's a fraud. He's a failure. He's a huckster. He's everything that you could possibly imagine, right? So hold on. I got to figure out the power settings on my camera. I didn't take your humanity then, right? And I don't have the ability to take your humanity, but what I can say is that I know for a fact that at that time there was still a good portion of you that just got grifted, right? I know people that jumped out the car, but so much has happened since then, right? There's people that jumped out on January 6th. There were people that jumped out when he was acting deranged on the campaign trail. But then look where we're at, right? So many of you stayed on. And if you are still with Trump after 10 years, knowing what we know and seeing the heightened tensions, and 1 year of him dumping the gasoline on the flames of division and purposely agitating and harming and disenfranchising his own people in some vindictive rage, if that's still what you support, no, you've lost your humanity, right? I don't see you as human, but guess what? The difference is even though I don't see you as a human, I still don't believe that you should be brutalized. I still don't believe that your children should be harmed. I still don't believe that you should be shipped off to a third world country. I still don't believe that secret police should be able to end your life in the middle of the streets. I still believe that you should have a right to see your children every night. I still don't believe any of that, right? But you do, right? You don't know who Renee Good is. You don't know this woman. You don't know anything about her. Right? And something absolutely horrific happened to her. And you guys convinced yourselves that she was in the wrong. We have the video from every single angle, and you guys are so entwined in this that you had to force yourself to pretend the video showed the officer goon get hit. Because you had to dehumanize her. Because if you dehumanize her, you can justify her life being taken. And that's all you care about. It's brutality and cruelty. That's what you guys voted for, and that's what you're getting. So, you know, am I dehumanizing? Not really. I'm calling out what it is. I'm telling you what you are and what you fell for. You'll never be able to defend it. You'll never be able to defend it. But what will happen is that our difference in opinion is that when I say that I don't see you as a human, I still believe you deserve dignity and an opportunity to come around. When you guys see somebody to not be human, you want the worst for them. You want them harmed. You want them crying. You want them miserable. That's the difference. So you tell me who has the humanity, right? who has the humanity, and you know exactly how to do this, right? And Charlie Kirk was the beginning. First off, again, one of your own did it. That is a fact. Like, I'm sorry, you guys do not understand internet culture. Well, you do when it's convenient. But he dressed up as a Pepe. Like, all of his language was just incel gamer stuff. Those text messages were complete Fed slop. But you ate it up. You ate up Fed slop. You were told the fakest. Yeah, okay, dude. Two gamers on Discord type in complete sentences and don't say car. They say vehicle. Come on. And they outline their motive, like, and the escape plan. So you guys fell for a giant psyop, right? And that man got taken from you. And you guys like Charlie Kirk, right? That was one of your prophets. That was your guy. That was your Martin Luther King. And guess what? You got lied to about what happened, and you got misled, right? And you watched his wife dance to fireworks, and the FBI gave you garbage, and they haven't reported on anything, and they're not telling you about any of the actual evidence, and they gave you fabricated bullshit, and they gave you a story you don't even believe. You guys were all ballistics experts back in 2017 when what happened in Vegas, right? When a whole bunch of you were sitting there, you were slowing it down, you were talking about the rate of fire, and you were, oh, the trajectory and this and that, and we're following the bullet, and you guys created 3D reanimations because you had to. You wanted to examine the ballistics to find ways to explain why nothing should be done about gun violence. That's why. Right? But now nothing makes sense. You know it. You know the 30-06 can't do that. You know there's no exit wound. You know that it's very suspicious that he took it all apart, ran down, and then reassembled it in the woods. You know it's weird that the land he was found on is owned by Palantir. You know all that. But you're not going to do that same forensics because it would blow open your narrative that the left took one of your guys, which they didn't, but now the warning shot was done. Now you guys have your Pearl Harbor moment. Now you guys have your 9/11 moment, that one catastrophic occurrence that justifies atrocity, that can justify war, that can justify brutality because of what happened to one man. So you guys don't see it as something insane happened to a guy. You see it as the entire left because you're groomed to dehumanize anybody who is not lockstep with Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. I try not to even call him Trump. I feel like calling him Trump is humanizing him too much. I feel like that is way too much. It's way more than he deserves, right? This is your guy. This is your bastion of morality, you deep Christians, right? A guy who sexually assaulted his first wife, the mother of his child, and then buried her on a golf course so he could reap some tax benefits. That is your moral bastion. That is your, he just stands for family values. He's cheated on every single wife he's had. He has children that he has sexualized. He doesn't care about anyone. The man has never said I love you and meant it. And for some reason you think that he cares about your family and represents your values. You guys are jokes. You guys are frauds. And now you showed us that 2A means nothing. Now you showed us that this whole fight against tyranny was a giant LARP. You performed because the tyranny's here and you're doing nothing. You're clapping for it. And it was by design. They know that they had to get you on their side, but they couldn't pass it on the merits, right? And these are the big 2A guys. First off, Trump took your bump stocks. All right, so he hasn't been good on 2A. And Obama expanded your rights. That's my favorite. That is my absolute favorite for these two-eyed chuckle fucks. They sat there and Obama's taking your gun. Guess what Obama did? He expanded access and allowed people to carry into national parks, verifiable 09, passed by Congress, he signed into law. So people with concealed carry permits can now go into national parks. And he also signed legislation allowing people to carry their firearms on Amtrak. Okay, those were the only two actions that man took. And then Sandy Hook happened, and one of your heroes called that a hoax. And yeah, he started to express that something needs to be done. But then Trump came in and actually took your bump stocks. He actually took something from you, and you did nothing because you guys are cucks. You sit there in the little chair and you watch him ravage your future, and you say, "Thank you, Daddy." And he knows that. That's why he calls himself Daddy. That's why he calls himself that, because he knows that's how you guys see him. He knows that you guys are so obedient. You're the most obedient puppies ever. You are good boys. He says bark, you bark. He tells you to fetch, you fetch. And you come back and you lap up whatever he lays out in front of you and you thank him for it. So once we realized that this was all a giant facade and that you guys have just erected these talking points as justification for atrocity, no, we lost you. You lost your humanity. So I'm not going to sit here and listen to this absolute nut hit this stuff. You know, these guys, and you know what's going to happen, right? They're going to say he pulled a gun on the cop. That's what they're going to say. They have to. They have to, right? Just like Renee Good hit him with the car, even though that didn't happen. They will say this, and it's going to work because we all saw the video already. It didn't happen. He didn't pull anything. The guy had mittens on. Okay, some of you guys don't even know how he had a weapon. Correct. He legally was possessing a weapon. That is his constitutional right that you guys have browbeaten us for a decade that's their right. Okay, but you know what? Do you know where gun control started? Do you know when they started to enact actual sweeping gun control in California? California, the most restrictive state, ooga booga California gun laws, they all started under Reagan because you guys didn't like when Black Panthers were holding rifles on the Capitol steps. So you're okay with hindering those rights when it means disarming the boogeymen that you've been groomed to hate. But all of a sudden that all goes out the window. He didn't remove a weapon. He didn't. We all see it. We all saw it. He was pleading for his life. And you guys there's nothing I can say that is going to get you away from these beliefs. You get told how to think and feel. You don't even need to. I don't know why you guys watch videos. Why do you even watch the video? What is the point of watching the video? Because you're not going to care what you see. You know, the party told you to reject your eyes and ears. It was their final command. I'm paraphrasing that. But you guys spent years talking about 1984, and here you are in the throes of it, in an Orwellian nightmare with your pom-poms on, cheering for a sloppy, wet bag of McDonald's in a diaper, rambling and babbling and screwing everything up, and your shit costs more money, and you're paying more, and your health care is going to shit. He's doing absolutely nothing for you, but you will sit here and you will obediently obey whatever he tells you to think. So I'm completely over this. I'm completely over it, and it's why this isn't a debate. You know, like, again, I tried to bring one guy on and he started doing that abusive stuff, and I feel bad for his family because they all do the same thing. You know, they sit there and you know, what would this guy say to me? He was like, okay, calm down, calm down, calm down. Dude, this is why your family exhales when you leave the room. It's the same abusive shit. Whole bunch of guys who have absolutely no desire in the world to seek therapy, leveraging therapy words to just so that they can create some sort of culpability for their actions. You guys don't have beliefs. You know, we're debating the people with absolutely nothing they believe in. You know, ICE is literally our homeland defense and you're bashing them. What do you think our military is? What do you think CPB is? What do you think a National Guard is? They're our national defense? Really? I feel safer because a bunch of women and children were zip-tied outside of their apartments at 3 a.m? You think that my national defense, that my security depends on who's making my pizza, or it depends on what guy I bump into someone at the supermarket and they didn't file paperwork on time and now I have to be... You are so fragile. You are so fragile. ICE. Oh, they're keeping me safe. You're not even safe. Your families aren't safe from you. You know, you guys are the domestic terrorists, proven by 100% of all the statistics, right? You guys are responsible for all of this, right? Family elimination, child predators, sexual assault. Guess I'm not going to say you guys. It's us. It's this demographic, right? White men. okay, who portray themselves as straight or present as straight, cis white men. We are the greatest perpetuators of harm, of terrorism, of war, of destruction, of mass murder. That's who we are. And there's a good portion of us that accept that. And as a result, we try to evolve. We try to elevate our thinking. We try to listen and learn. We try to be the best examples of our demographic that we can be. Whereas you guys are just so angry about the statistics that you project that all onto groups of others so that you can feel some sort of comfort in remaining ignorant. You guys don't evolve. You don't think. You don't change with new information because you've had 10 years of information showing you that you got grifted. And here you are, simping away. That's one of your words, right? Simps. Oh, anyone who's nice to a girl online is a simp. You guys literally lap up what other men tell you to think. There is nothing more beta than waking up and waiting for another man to tell you how you have to feel about something. That's what they want you to do, right? So again, like I said, the last lives I did a bunch of lives last week, and I always brought people on, right? And we had a great conversation. If you guys follow me, that'd be awesome. Check out my videos. I had a back and forth for like 30, 40 minutes with this guy. He was a 20-year-old kid, libertarian, seeing what's going on, found this kind of gross, said, I'm all set on that. And, we had a free exchange of ideas. Like, I didn't move any ground. He didn't really move any ground. But at the end, it was very cordial. We had this understanding, right? Yeah, there's people that were in there. People remember that. Yeah, Shrimp, man, that guy was great, right? We've had other people that came on, and we had this cordial exchange because at some point, this is going to be over, guys. This is going to end. J.D. Vance is not going to be able to hold your cult. Okay, he's not going to be able to keep you guys together. So when the cholesterol finally does its job, and 86 is this chomo, you guys are going to be left with a vacuum. And whoever takes over next is not going to have the charisma and humor of Trump to be able to hold that base. So you're going to sit here, and then you're going to wind up in the same situation that the pro-Iraq war guys are, where years later you're all hiding who you supported and how you sat and who you felt. But guess what? We have a digital footprint now. So you're going to have to face this. You're going to have to see history classify this as a deranged fascist movement and you as one of the slugs that endorsed it. These are the situations that we're in. This is our reality, right? So you're going to have to reckon with this. You know what? He doesn't actually have charisma, but for them, it's charismatic. Like, let me explain something to you. Trump had the opportunity to go out as a pop culture icon. His tweets between 2011 and 2013, barring the racist Obama stuff, were hilarious. He was commenting on Miley Cyrus's relationships, and he was invested into who Robert Pattinson is date. Like, this is what he used to do. It was like, oh, Donald Trump, crazy old man on Twitter. But then you guys decided that this is someone who should lead the nation, right? Because he made you laugh. That's your criteria. Laugh and not be a woman. Like, that's all it takes, for you guys to hop on the saddle. So, we are here because you guys are impressionable and weak and unaccomplished. And a lot of you are starting to see the light. The young people, a lot of young people, they were too young to really understand what was going on in 2016 and 2020. So I have no problem engaging them. That's who I want to talk to, is young white men, and explain to them that, like, hey, we didn't all used to do this. Like, we used to be pretty accepting. I'm a millennial. I'm 37 years old, man. I voted for Obama at 19 years old. It was like kind of weird for you to be a Republican then, right? To be young and have your dad's views and not rebel. Like, that was weird, right? I didn't know any McCain guys in my high school. Some of you might that were, in different areas, but in New Jersey in 2008, if you were a John McCain fan, you were a fucking dork, right? And looking back now, look like McCain looks beautiful to me. You know what I mean? I didn't fear John McCain, right? Because this brand was so terrifying. So these young people, right? You start 2016, maybe they could have been, it was 10 years ago. They could have been 9 years old. So they didn't really get to see this progression. And so then they come into it, they're 19, they're 20, and guess what? Their streamer is Aiden Ross, and they listen to Theo Vaughn, and this comedian makes them laugh. Maybe they fell into that stupid Rogan trap. and they start getting told that this is, that this is your guy, he's cool, he's gonna know wars, blah 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 blah, cheap eggs, haha. All these cool talking heads are coalescing around him, so you voted for him, but this isn't what you wanted. Like, something doesn't feel right inside, and what that means is you have your humanity intact still. And that's where we're at. Like, at this point, you're supposed to take a look at this presidency, take a look at the last year, and see what's happening, and start to feel a discomfort inside of you. I've had it for 10 years. This has been uncomfortable. We knew where this was going. Some of us screamed this was going to happen. And what did you do? You guys, hold on. Sorry about that. Uh-oh. Okay. There we go. What would you guys do? You guys laughed and dismissed it. But now we're at the point where everything that liberals and leftists and independents and, dicing it up. You know what, dude? We do not, like, I understand that there's ideological differences on the left, but right now it's just like you're either pro or anti-fascism, man. Thank you, back at you. That's it. You're either pro or anti-fascism, right? And guess what? They criminalized the phraseology of anti-fascist, the term anti-fascist, and that's by design, right? Because they have to make you think it's a gang. There's no headquarters. It's an ideology. It's a complete opposition to ultranationalism, nativism, and everything that the Constitution was written to prevent. But now it puts you in this, dangerous Antifa super soul. Please, man, you guys care more about Starbucks windows than you care about, a mother being popped in the face 3 times. So this whole idea that you guys believe in anything, I'm willing to talk to young men. I'm willing to speak out there that could kind of bring these people in and try to explain to them, like, hey, look, dude, the Democratic Party sucks. Like, I'm the first one to tell you, I vote for him every cycle because that side's insane, and I see it as harm reduction. But you're right, it is deeply flawed. There's a lot of problems with that party, but we're not fascists, right? We're not utilizing brutality to satiate our basis craving to see harm done to others. So there is time to get out of the car. But the reason why, and that ties into what I'm about to say, it's the reason why I was simply not willing to sit here and have people on, because we can disagree about a lot of things. We are not going to disagree that that man deserves to be alive, or that Renee Good deserves to be alive, or that these brown people that are being rounded up, brown and black, okay, obviously, these people are being rounded up and sent to third world countries, into prisons, and to what is functionally concentration camps, right? Like, that's what's happening. You guys think that like the concentration camps existed in Germany years before the chambers and all of the most serious atrocities. They were work camps. And then over time, as they were able to unravel your humanity and lure you into dehumanizing them, then the real atrocities happened. And guess what? They just nodded their heads because they had already captured them. So that's where you're at, right? It used to be, okay, we want them deported, sure. Okay, the ban. We don't want to allow Muslims into the country. You guys were fine with that. You saw that as rational. But then he basically tested the waters, and now we started going further, right? So now we got to round them up, right? We got to build this wall. We got to take them and send them back to where they belong. You know what I mean? Hold on. I gotta mute somebody. We're not tolerating that. So they figured, okay, that worked. How much deeper can we get? You know what I mean? Like, how much deeper can we go with this? And so then they started taking people without due process. And Kilmer Abregu was that was the test for you guys. Like, hey, guy didn't do anything wrong. He followed up. He was going through the legal process. He was doing what he needed to do. Guy's a father. They just took him and they're sending him to a country he's not from, to a prison. Maybe this is where we were supposed. And what did you guys do? You convinced yourselves he's MS-13 because it helped you dehumanize him. All of a sudden, he's no longer a father, right? Now he's a terrible human being that's involved in this vicious cycle of gang violence, because that allows you to dehumanize him. You guys were okay with that. And then you said, oh, it's not happening to citizens. Well, now it's happening to citizens. And it was happening to brown citizens, too. Like, a lot of these people were just being rounded up because they were Latino, right? That was it. All they had to do was have brown skin and be appearing suspicious, and they were getting handcuffed. It's happening regular. Okay, it's happening regularly. And you guys were fine with that. And now, the ultimate test. Are you okay with white Americans being brutalized and executed in the street? And Renee Good, well, she's a woman and you guys hate women. So that one was easy. But now it's a white man, a 2A firearm owner, legally carrying. This is your prototype. This is your demographic, right? Forget liberal. All right? White guy exercising his Second Amendment rights in the streets and protesting. Nothing more American. There is nothing more American than that. Why he's protesting? Who cares? The point is that 1A protects protests, and this country was founded on protesting your country and critiquing it when it's wrong. That is what patriotism is. True patriotism is a willingness to challenge your government and call it out when it's wrong and to say this isn't what I support. But you guys have been groomed to think that that's anti-American and that we should all just pack up and move to Guatemala if we want better for the country that we were in. Well, guess what, buddy? My citizenship is the same as yours. So why someone is protesting is irrelevant. The point is the man was protesting federal agents, right? All you Ruby Ridge guys, right? He was protesting federal agents and overstep. All you Waco guys, come on, how many opportunities have you guys had where you have always consistently taken the side of the armed white man over the government? That has consistently been your position. But now you don't like what he was saying, right? You didn't agree with him, okay? And now you've justified it. And now we have crossed into the final frontier where you're even okay with white male firearm owners being executed in broad daylight in the street, and because you didn't agree with them politically, it's just okay. So you believed in nothing. It turns out it's always been cosplay. It's always been a LARP. It's always been fake. And we all knew it. But now the evidence is clear. Now it's right in front of us, and we know you're frauds, and we know you're emotional, and we know you're small, and we know that all you have is the ability to challenge me with your rehearsed and groomed lines. That is all you guys know how to do. You don't care. We love our military, and we blah 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 blah, and we all support our troops. Blah blah blah. You're either with us or you're a terrorist. All that's out the window. He cut VA funding. You don't like the veterans that come up and say this isn't what I signed up to defend. You guys, you discredit them. You call them General Milley. A five-star general, a decorated veteran, a guy who has put his life on the line numerous times for this country, and whether you support the military or not, or whether you support all the actions it was, this is the guy that you guys have been seeing as the ultimate American for so long. But guess what? He said he read some books, right? He read some books, and that was enough for you guys to turn this man into a woke Marxist, right? And you were able to paint a five-star general. You didn't care about, when he bashed John McCain for being a POW. You didn't care. None of this. So everything you have ever portrayed yourself as has been fake. And we've seen it systematically one by one. Trump has so little regard for you that he forces you guys to reckon with the fact that you believe in nothing. And one by one by one, and I think I just saw, I want to scroll up real quick and make sure I just saw that. Do you support the man that essayed a 13-year-old girl? No, I do not support Donald Trump. I do not support anyone who abuses children. But you do. You do. I don't. You do. You do. You just don't. You only care when the offender is part of a group that you are projecting your insecurity on. That's the only time you care. You don't care about little girls. You don't care about women. You don't care about anybody. You don't even care about your own families. Like, that's the reality. You guys are abusers. Right? Like, we know this. Like, you guys terrorize your families, right? And then you go out and you terrorize the comment sections, and you laugh, react, and you call people gay, and you call people names. Like, it's just, yeah, right? And he knows this. That's why you guys are such obedient good boys. You're obedient good boys. So don't come in here and start going, oh, this victim and that victim, because you don't care about victims. Do you know what? When a 13-year-old girl, when a child victim comes forward and says, I was abused by an undocumented immigrant, you guys want the death penalty. You don't even want a trial. You don't want any discovery. That is it. That person should be immediately locked up. And I agree with you, okay? But when that victim comes out and says it's one of the guys you like, oh, she's a liar. You believe the Epstein victims when they mention Clinton, which none of them did. They said they saw him, but no one's ever accused him of anything, which I think he is. I think he's guilty, but he's never been accused. Trump has been credibly accused, and you call her a liar. Katie Johnson's a liar. Oh, she dropped the lawsuit in 2016. Correct, because you and your friends go after victims. If they come forward on someone you like, you don't believe them. If they even hint that it was somebody else, you believe them. I believe both. There is not one Democrat that you could name. There is not one liberal. There is not one leftist. There is no thought leader on my side that I believe is impugned to abusing women or children. Okay? And we know this. We know this. Let me explain something to you. 90% of my beliefs, okay? Hey, Kat, he was found civilly liable for sexual assault, and he's admitted it on recording that he sexually assaults women. We're not going to sit here and debate whether victims are telling the truth or not. So you're muted for the rest of the live. We will not be denying sexual assault. We will not be victim blaming. We will not be calling it into credibility. He was found civilly liable by a jury of his peers who examined the evidence that he committed sexual assault or digital penetration or some sort of abuse on a woman. Not discussing it. We're not hashing that out. I'm not going to sit there and go through it. So you couldn't find one of my heroes that I am willing to say is impervious to harming a woman or a child, okay? And it just happened for me. I was devastated by Noam Chomsky. Seeing photos of Noam Chomsky with Steve Bannon at Epstein events, seeing that him and his wife exchanged these emails with Epstein, devastating. I've spent my entire life reading Chomsky and turning to him as a thought leader, as somebody to balance my views against, as someone that I thought was a visionary, okay? Someone who I thought was a great man. And guess what? He's on the list. And he has less evidence on him than Trump. He has less photos than Trump. And I'm done with him. He came on, I was watching Brainwashing of My Dad with my wife the other week. And he came on the screen, and I was just, devastating. Like, how now I can't look at this man ever the same. But you guys, they're liars. He was just friends with him. He's just a grown man that owned a Teen USA pageant and hired underage girls in his spa who just so happened to be recruited by his best friend who is a child sex trafficker. Just a big coincidence. That's just circumstantial, right? Unsubstantiated diary entry, guilty as charged. Multiple victim statements, dozens of pictures, exchanges. He's on record, put the prosecutor that cut him loose directly into his first administration, Alex Acosta, wished Ghislaine well. But you know what my absolute favorite one is? I'm going to tell you my absolute favorite. This is my absolute favorite. And I've said this on my last live, so I'm sorry for repeating this, but they go, oh, he was the one that turned him in. And when he found out what Epstein was up to, he was so disgusted they banned him from Mar-a-Lago. There's a rumor that Epstein was removed from Mar-a-Lago at the request of another member for hitting on a member's daughter. Okay, that's a fact, okay? So you're right there. But you mean to tell me, okay, listen to me, Donald Trump saw what Epstein was up to, even after in 2002 when he said Epstein's a terrific guy, I've known him for years, he likes girls young, even younger than I do. He said that, so it was a big joke to him. So we all know this isn't true. But let me give you the benefit of the doubt, and let's talk about it. So Donald Trump went to the FBI. He sat there and he gave depositions, and he worked tirelessly, and he removed this child trafficker from his vicinity and denounced him and was done with him. But now he's just too humble to mention it. He doesn't want to bring it up. The guy who takes credit for everything, right? The military carries out an operation. Oh, they're not going to thank me. The most grandiose man in the world. Somebody who, this is one thing, okay? If he had taken down Epstein, right, If he taken down Epstein and he did that, the entire world, liberals alike, would praise him for it. It is the one thing that everybody would sit there and go, wow, wow. Like, you know what? Hate everything he stands for, but he took down the world's most prolific child trafficker. That is a situation where just about all of us would have taken a minute, some of us in private, some of us publicly, and said, you know what, that was wrong. That was righteous. That was a good thing. But he's just too humble, right? He doesn't want to brag about that, right? That's what he wants to do. He just can't bring that up. And when Ghislaine was arrested, right, the right-hand woman to Epstein, I wish her well. He wished her well. And then guess what just happened, Mr. Operation Save the Children? He sent his personal lawyer to go visit Ghislaine, right? And he sat with his personal attorney for an hour and then came out with a statement saying he did nothing wrong and then got moved to minimum security, right? She's in a beautiful cell. She has a nice TV, right? And this is all under his Bureau of Prisons. This is what's happening. And you guys will trust a child sex trafficker's word more than the actual child that was sex trafficked. Katie Johnson's a liar. Ghislaine's word is gold. And that, my friends, is how you have dehumanized yourself. And it is why you have no credibility. No one can debate you on this. And when I have debated people, and when I have been willing to engage any sort of subject with MAGA, this is the one I leave alone. Because I cannot stomach hearing, especially other, men, sit here and have a conversation about why children are liars and why the women are liars and why everybody was a liar. Everyone that challenges him. So if the Epstein files are 100% valid when Clinton is implicated, but 100% fake when Trump is implicated, can I remind you who you guys wanted to give the highest law enforcement position in the country to? Can I remind you? Matt Gaetz. And guess what just came out? It is 100% true that he found a homeless 17-year-old girl. Girl was living in a shelter. A mother, single mother, okay, who was saving up money for braces. And he paid her money for sexual favors. The receipts are there. The findings are there. The House Democrats and the House Republicans both had said that this is like real. This is credible, to the point where he had to exit Congress, okay? And guess what? That was your guy. And you still don't talk about it. You guys still don't talk about it. You're still in denial about that one. You guys are not willing to even accept that. So you tell me how the Save Our Children crowd, which, by the way, let me explain something to you, okay? Let's pivot here. And again, this is something that I brought up on a previous live, but I think we got a lot of new people in here. Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay? That was you guys put that pudding head in Congress. You allowed her to yap and target school shooting victims and attack people and ravage the left. And then she decided to stick by two principles, okay? Save our children. She believed the Epstein victims and wanted justice for them, okay? You guys spent years saying, release the files, save our children, save our children. You guys said that repeatedly, right? Those are your battle cries. And what was the other one? America first. Those are the two things. And guess where Marjorie Taylor Greene broke from Trump on? The Epstein files. She stood with the victims, and she didn't want to send billions of dollars to a little country out there. Okay? Those were the two things. And he turned on her. He was furious with her for supporting the Epstein victims over him. Right? He was absolutely furious that these were two things she stood by. And these are your principles. This is your doctrine. These are your beliefs. Right? And then she got thrown out of the car. Okay? And she was told, you got to go. So she resigned. And she never needed protection until she went against you guys. Right? She was able to antagonize and bully and attack the left nonstop since 2018. Nonstop. And nobody ever threatened her life, right? So I got to hear about the violent left. hold on. I don't even know if I have mods in here, but I'm just gonna keep. Every time I see some lunatic, I'm just gonna mute him. I'm trying not to look at the chat because I'm in flow state right now. But I didn't even expect. I have not stopped talking for 90 minutes. Which, if you ask my wife, that's just a normal Tuesday. But I need a drink, and I have a Gatorade that I've been wanting to take a sip of for a while. But I'm pissed, man. I'm pissed. Someone died today. All right, at the hands of federal agents. I am furious. So I'm here to get this out, and I know that I got enough people here that agree with me that we can all kind of agree on this. Guys, you have no idea how much I needed that. Anyway, as I was saying, Marjorie Taylor Greene was able to attack the left for years and was safe. She went against you guys and decided that the children victims and America first was a priority, and she feared for her life because you guys are violent, because you guys lead the league in domestic terrorism, you lead the league in child predators, you lead the league in sexual abuse, you lead the league in domestic violence, you lead the league in family elimination, you lead the league in best bestiality. And again, I'm not even saying you guys are demographic, but a lot of you are on that side, a lot of us. So that's why I'm here. You know, I'm not going to talk on issues that I don't have agency to speak on. But what I am going to say is, you know, my demographic is fucking disappointing, right? It really sucks to have to go out and about, and when I see somebody, you know what situation we're in? If I go to the pet store, right, and there's a person behind the counter that has something like they, them, or some sort of signifying flag that they're a member of a marginalized group, whether it's a trans flag, a pride flag, or something, I have to figure out a way to let them know that I'm not one of you. Because I don't want to be seen as one of you. I don't want to be somebody who enters a room and people feel uncomfortable. Do you understand I can't hire MAGA Republicans? And before, if anyone wants to hear it, that's not discrimination. You're not a protected class. I'm sorry. I have LGBTQ employees. I have female employees. We're not hiring people that think they're less than human. Okay? So I can't even have you guys in my vicinity. And when I go out and about, I have to say something to let them know that I'm not with you. Okay? I'll give you an example. When I was at the pet store, and there was a person who went by they, them pronouns, and I'm loud, I'm aggressive, I got the beard, I got my flat brim hat on, a hoodie. You know, I look like one of you, right? When I went up there and they ask you if you want to make a donation, I'm never making a donation on behalf of a corporation. Screw you. If I feel good about a cause. So I immediately sat there and I looked at it, I was like, oh, hell no. And I hit no. And then I looked at them and I said, not in like the Republican way. I'm just not making a contribution for a corporation. And you could see a change in their eyes, right? You could see it's like, oh, okay, good. This isn't somebody who wants me eliminated. This isn't somebody who's using my identity as a punching bag for their own inadequacies. That is what you guys have created. You guys have created a hostile culture where people feel unsafe in public because of the rhetoric that you guys have endorsed and been emboldened with. This is insane. Like, do you understand? Like, why? How is this affecting you? It's not, but you were told it is, and you're just that obedient. MAGA is only a movement for the obedient. You have to be a good puppy for this, because if you have any semblance of a conscience, if you have any humanity in you, if you believe in facts, if you study, if you read research, if you understand scientific consensus, you can't follow this. You can't. You have to have something rotten inside of you to be willing to co-sign the unaliving of American citizens in the streets because they don't want their cities invaded by masked feds who are brutalizing their community and their neighbors. That's the issue. You don't see them as human, but the rest of us do. You know, these are, you know, I said this earlier, right? That my politics, the way I boil it down, because, the left, we're very diverse in our thought, right? I consider myself a pragmatic progressive, right? Functionally, the things I believe in are very dem soch. But ideologically, I wouldn't oppose living in a further left society if the right implication. So, nuanced thought, right? We don't all just coalesce behind white supremacy and anger and hatred and closeted repressed ideals. Like, you guys, that's what you'll do. You'll pretend you have diversity of thoughts, but it's just who has more hatred in their heart. For us, it's what is our understanding to reach as close to a utopia as possible where every human lives with dignity and self-pride. That is like the diversity of the left is really just how do we get there, right? So I'll sit there and I'll debate that all day. We will sit there and we will hash things out, but there's no way to debate you guys because you don't believe in anything, So it's this idea that you can sit there and watch this and still hold these views is such a testament to your character. This isn't a political thought. This isn't a political difference. We had political differences years ago. I'll sit here and talk about why Keynesian economics is better than laissez-faire. I'll sit here and talk about why Austrian economic theory, versus Marxist theory, versus, the different schools of thought under those collective umbrellas, or the difference between like actual socialized, nationalized medicine and single payer systems, or why we need this program. Those are political differences. Those are ideals. What we disagree on is something very, very simple. I think humans deserve to live with dignity. Based off who cares what paperwork they filed or where they happen to be born, I believe they deserve dignity. Now, does that mean that we should be opening up the borders and importing absolutely everybody? Guess what? There's some people on the left who don't believe in borders. They say no borders on stolen land, and that's their view, right? And I'm not going to debate that. I'm not going to sit here and punch left and nitpick while you guys are storming the streets and killing people. So, I don't have time for that right now. We have to stop the mess you guys created, and then we could go back to arguing amongst ourselves about the different issues and how it should be done. But I don't think we can just have an open border. That's just not a feasible or reasonable solution right now. Okay? None of us support that. But you've been told it's open borders, right? But guess what? There's a child here. Okay? A child is in our country. How they got here, I don't know. And they're hungry. Feed them. Those are my politics. Those are my politics right now. Okay? This guy that you guys believe, do you think Jesus, right, would have sat there and been like, kid from Nazareth or not? Oh no, man, we're in Bethlehem. Did their parents come here legally? Do you think that's what they said? Do you think that's what Jesus would say? Ask yourself this, okay? And this has been drumming along in my head. Do you think Mr. Rogers would share your ideals? Like when your ideological ops are Miss Rachel and Mr. Rogers and Steve Irwin and like all these people that taught about love and acceptance and Jesus, like all of these figures that you have put up on these pedestals as these great human beings, these pure human beings. You are here and Mr. Rogers is here. I'll be on the side with Mr. Rogers and Miss Rachel, right? I'm on the side that doesn't want dead, starving kids, okay? That's the side that I'm on. Sometimes it's just that simple, guys. Sometimes like me and one of my employee, Jacob, we were laughing about this the other day. We're like, do you understand that NATO could be disbanded because guys in Wisconsin cared about egg prices? Like, do you understand how silly this system is that you guys could be so groomed and captured by an obvious psyop that now the entirety of the world order is in jeopardy and that world peace is in jeopardy and that we're on the brink of a geopolitical collapse and the devaluation of the dollar, all because you guys got groomed by a deranged child predator. That is where we are at. And you don't understand it because you're not, I don't want to call you stupid, but most of you are. but you're too ignorant, right? You're because you know what? No, fuck that. Because there are people on the left that may be intellectually challenged or not as bright as the next person, and even they know this is wrong. This isn't an intelligence thing. This isn't an intelligence thing at all. So I'm going to take that back. What I just said, in my opinion, is kind of ableist. I think it was wrong, right? Because here I am pretending that a lack of intellect is what brought you guys here, when it's really a lack of morality. You're just not good people. You aren't good people. I'm on the side with Mr. Rogers and Miss Rachel. You're on the side with Kid Rock and Ted Nugent, both of which have written songs about essaying underage girls. That's where you are, okay? Your side is miserable. You guys have everything you ever wanted. You have the Supreme Court, okay? You have the presidency. You have the House of Representatives. You have, I got to figure out how to stop that from happening, because that is messing me up. You guys have the House of Representatives. You have the Senate. Your budget bill was passed. Every single thing you wanted. Your guy that you voted for is in the midst of an authoritarian power grab. He's consolidating more power and exerting it, and he's doing everything he wants. And even when the courts rule against him, he just fucking ignores it. So you have everything you wanted, okay? Absolutely everything you wanted, and you're still mad. You're still angry, because guess what? There is no outcome where you're not miserable. He can't have you complacent or at ease or feeling good. It has to keep going. The chaos has to keep going. There has to be misery. There has to be hatred. He needs you guys motivated to be violent. He needs this. And you know what? It's being helped by all the oligarchs, right? PB, Mapogo, what about the Democrats that voted to keep funding ICE this past week? Fuck them. But I will say that's 3.29%, 3 out of 213, 240. Yeah, it's about 3.5%, 3.29% of the House caucus voted to continue funding ICE. That is a vote that will stay with them forever. That is going to be a stain on their names and their legacies. But I never heard of any of them except for Glusenkamp Perez. I've never heard of it. Oh, Jared Golden in Maine. But you know, I'm sorry if anyone's asking to come on. I'm just all set. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, because I don't want to be distracted. And I'm not saying the person who just requested to come on is, I don't know if you're friendly or not, but I'm just simply not willing to discuss and debate whether or not American citizens deserve to be removed from this earth in the middle of the street. That's just not something that I think is up for discussion. And I feel that by lowering myself to sitting here and discussing that, we're cheapening what's going on. This is a crisis, constitutional crisis, moral crisis. This is a complete crisis, right? And I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's just some difference of opinion. That man and Renee Good, I don't know his name yet, guys. If someone wants to put it in the chat, I would love to know what his name is. But that man and Renee Good, we're not going to sit here and debate if they should be alive or if their humanity mattered. So I absolutely, Alex Pretty, if there's someone who could phonetically, Alex Pratty, I don't want to say this guy's name wrong. He just, Pretty. Okay, Alex Pretty. I don't want to sit here and debate about whether Alex and Renee deserve to be alive right now. This isn't a debate. The answer is yes. Okay, history will be clear. Every single moral guide that you can come up, and a nurse practitioner for the VA. Wow. Give me a minute. You mean to tell me 37. He's my age. Like that, the man's my age. Like this is someone I could have been in class with, right? And they live in Minneapolis, and they love their city and they love their community, right? And he saw people coming in, federal agents who have been emboldened by the highest, most powerful office in the world to act with complete impunity and disregard for the Constitution. He saw that, and what did he do? He protested, because that's what Americans do. We protest our government. It is the one thing that separates us from a dictatorship, is that right to protest. And he went there. This guy, I could have sat in school with him, and he's now deceased. He's now unalived for it. How do you watch that video and go to bed tonight and support ICE? I tell you how. By surrendering your humanity. It's really that simple. I had this whole idea that I was going to do these lives and bring people on and try to appeal to their humanity. That was my entire mission. And we have. I will have casual conversations about any other subject, but I will never touch this one in regards to a debate, because I can't see humanity in you if you do not find this reprehensible and wrong. This is a dividing line for me. We are not going to sit here and have a discussion about whether people should be executed in the streets. The answer is no. You are not on the right side of history. And I know that gets said to you guys and you don't care, but you might have to answer for this one day, man. Like, the pendulum is going to swing back, right? Because this is a sloppy movement, man. This is not clean. This guy's not articulate. He's not intelligent. He's a bumbling fool, okay, being controlled by his puppet masters, right? Which I'll name some of them are the tech oligarchs, and then there's 2 countries that own him outright, okay? They have blackmail. So the president abused children. It was recorded, and a country has that documentation. And because of that, we are in the situation we are. He ran to stay out of prison, and you guys obediently chose him. Was Kamala Harris perfect? No, absolutely not. Okay? There's so much to be said about any of them, and I'll say that about any U.S. president or candidate, that they were all flawed. But this was a difference between status quo stagnation and rapid degradation, and you guys chose degradation. You know, I'm going to always feel good that I voted against this. I can comfortably say right now that there is no evidence that I have ever voted for a child predator. You guys can't say that. That is something that you're going to have to rest with. And I hope you reckon with it. I hope you reckon with it in a meaningful way. And if you jump out of the car now, it doesn't make you a liberal. It makes you a human. This isn't a political position. You're allowed to oppose ICE. You're allowed to oppose tyranny. You're allowed to oppose fascism and reject everything on the left. You don't even have to believe in anything we believe in. You could be a Reagan Republican, you could be a McCain, you could be conservative, whatever the fuck you want to be. You can still be that. But you can be a human and say, this is my line. I do not believe that people should be killed in the streets. That's all you need to do. I see people saying that I would be a good podcast. I really do want to start a podcast one day. This is all very new to me. My wife pushed me to make a TikTok, and I started making TikToks, and the content went pretty well. And this is what I do at work with my employees. This is what I do with my family. I just rant. You know, I'm an hour and 50 minutes in. I took one break to sip a Gatorade. I'm going to keep going. You know, you're all welcome. You could leave, you could come back in. You have every right to make your decisions, but I'm going to keep going, right? Yes, I'm the John that comes on Left Jess. I've known Left Jess for a while. I don't want to accept Venmo. My account is in my link tree on my bio on TikTok, but you don't have to send me money. Look, like, this is how low the bar is, right? Like, why do I deserve? Send that money to Minneapolis. Send that money to the indigenous groups. Send that money over there. Do not give me money. Give money to the people that are being brutalized. I'm not here to profit off of what's happening over there. I'm here to just express my anger, to express my rage. If you want to do something, follow me. I would love to be followed. Like, I would love to have more people that understand, that we are more aligned, and know that there's other people out there, that feel this way. And thank you for the follows. I appreciate you guys. This one I'm warming up. But again, I started doing this because I wanted an outlet. I wanted to be able to say something, out loud, and have some sort of a cathartic release. And I did this. I've typically been a yapper on Facebook for 10 years. I've been complaining about Trump for 10 years. A lot of typing, a lot of rambling, but it comes across as angry because of how I type. And I'm a very animated person. My face moves, my hands move. So I felt like this is just a way more relatable way to say what's on my mind. And it's been very cathartic. This has been eye-opening. It's more human than just reading posts on Facebook. You know what I mean? And to a captive audience. I have a YouTube. I put everything in a link tree on my bio. This is very new to me, but I created a little Substack. I created a YouTube. I haven't put anything on, but I 100% do plan on streaming on more platforms, and I would like to have a podcast. And I've always made fun of that. I'm like, oh great, here's what we need is another white guy yelling, and I always thought that the internet doesn't need it, like an angry white guy, but it does. We need it more than ever, not to speak over others and not to be the dominating force, but like it's a predominantly white guy opposition, and we need young white guys like us to know that, like, you don't have to lick boots and worship fascism to be seen as masculine and a real man. Like they co-opted it. They took masculinity and turned it into this. And this is not this isn't there needs to be more voices. And this is what I have been saying. Like, look, if you're following this live right now and you're another angry white dude, start yelling. Turn your camera around. There's nothing special about me or anybody else. And yeah, I am articulate. I'm pretty good at I have a good command of the English language, and I know how to speak. But guess what? My tone and my words are not going to land with everybody, but your words might, right? And the way that you articulate it might. So I think we all should be talking. I don't think that this is something that exclusively should be reserved for people that have the finesse of a good podcaster. I think it's the more we all speak and talk up, we take back the internet, because it was stolen from us by right-wing podcasters and grifters, guys on the Russian payroll. Benny Johnson and Tim Pool verifiably get money from the Russians to push propaganda, and they still have a platform. So there needs to be more people speaking up, because there's there's influencers out there that are getting through to these young men and filling them with rage and telling them that the only solution to these inequities is to follow this deranged movement. And you know what? And I'm not trying to go too off track, but I understand it, right? And it doesn't mean it's justified or right, but again, I'm 37, okay? I grew up at a time where we were starting to kind of see progress, right? For Obama first term. Like, we went from 8 years of George W. Bush and unnecessary endless wars to a guy that can hoop, you know what I mean? That could swish a basket, that brought, Jay-Z to the White House. We felt we were represented, that young group. And now we're in this time where young people have so much access to information, right? They could sit on this app at 13, 14 years old and see logically that that it's going to be very hard for them to buy a house, right? The median age of a home buyer right now is 52, right? Like, so they see that there's no future for them, right? And then you have the left, right? The collective left, that is publicly saying like, hey man, we've experienced some privilege, this and that, and they don't understand the concept of what privilege is. They don't get it that you can like being pulled over and making it home alive is a point of privilege, right? That is something that not every race or people have the luxury of knowing they're going to go home, that they're not going to be brutalized, that drugs aren't going to be planted on them. So that is that element of privilege that we do hold. The issue is that the grifters, the podcasters who dominated the airwaves, just like in the 80s and the 90s they did to radio, right? They took over radio and started attacking, impressionable white men driving to work with propaganda about who their enemy is, and you saw this huge Overton shift to the right because they were told they were victims and they were given groups and scapegoats to blame all their inadequacies and failures on. But radio's antiquated, so they knew to follow that same playbook and take over the internet waves. And guess what? It worked, right? So you mean to tell me I have privilege, but I'm never going to own a house, and I'm never going to do this, and I have no future, I'm never going to be paid well, and I'm not going to, be able to retire and live a life of dignity. So they were told that. So the idea of privilege, fuck you, man. I'm not privileged. My life sucks. And the right wing said, yeah, that's what they mean by privilege. They meant that everything is great for you and they don't think you have any troubles. So come over here to this side and let's blame Mexicans for it. Let's get angry at the gays and inundate you with this propaganda and slowly start to mold these young minds into, blaming groups of people while voting for the party and the policies that created this situation. I'm not going to say party. Actually, that's a misnomer. It's very disingenuous to say that this was Republicans that created the situation we're in right now. Center-right Democrats and these neoliberals, they are just as guilty. Like Clinton was a continuation of Reaganism, right? Even though they balanced the budget, and all that, it was still the same old like corporatism and corporations have more power than humans. So we all collectively through right-wing policy, even though from a Democrat, it was right-wing policy. Hold on, I'm going to give somebody a moderator position so I can, someone's going a little crazy. So they were hit with this propaganda and they got molded to believe that when people say that privilege exists, male privilege, white privilege, whatever privilege it is, that it means that they are, that they have a golden spoon in their mouth, and that's never what it meant. That was never what it meant. What it meant was I can always get a job quicker than a black man, even if they're more qualified than me. That is a fact, and most likely will be paid more. Okay, look, I was in prison. In 2010, I got arrested. I was a rug addict. Before things got too crazy. And I've been clean for a long time off the hardest stuff. But I was able to have that experience and then re-enter the workforce and be welcomed and say, hey, how are you? Hey, we all make mistakes. That's not extended to other groups, right? Look at the barrier right here. Like, there are people in this chat right now that are saying, you rock and you're amazing. All I'm saying is that people shouldn't be unalived in the middle of the street by a private military. This isn't profound stuff, but that's how far white dudes have wavered from the plot. That this sounds revolutionary. Wow, this guy doesn't believe in the extrajudicial slaughter of U.S. citizens. Wow, this guy doesn't think that brown people should be rounded up and put in camps. It's not, this is how mediocre that we can be and still be seen as thought leaders or brilliant or groundbreaking. I'm just mad. Like, I am just angry. And we have this ability to leverage that, and just acknowledging that exists. It has been turned into this controversial topic to the point where young men decided to elect a fascist and a bunch of policies that will further prevent them from reaching prosperity because they were sold a manufactured culture war. And I say this all the time. You have people that you will see on Facebook saying the most vicious stuff ever, and then you click on their profile picture and you scroll back to when they still had light in their eyes. And in 2015, during Obergefell, they had that rainbow cover. We were all happy that they were allowed to get married. It was almost like a position on that. You know, where like 70% of the country's like, yeah, this should be legal. Like, who cares? It's not hurting anybody. It's a plant, blah, 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 blah. Okay? That was what gay marriage was at that time. Like, we all kind of agreed. And then they lost their scapegoat. Damn, they could get married. We don't have them. People are too accepting. So why don't we find a new minority to cast as the face of degradation and the face of debauchery and the erosion of the family, the great American family. So they pick trans people, right? 1% of the population. They've been going to the bathroom wherever the hell they want forever. It's the same thing as a name. You guys give yourself a nickname. This is you know, you don't have a problem calling somebody by that, right? But a trans person says, this is my identity, and all of a sudden, oh, it's politicized and this and that, and they're creeps and this and that. And we've seen this before. And I've said this before, you know, but first off, you're wrong about the wrong 1%. If you think that someone taking a shit at Target is the reason why you don't own a boat, you're an idiot, right? It's the people you voted for are the reason, right? Mark Zuckerberg and Ellison and Musk and all these billionaire oligarchs that pretended to be on the side of what's good and righteous, that flipped immediately when the fascism hit, because they knew that this was an opportunity, right? This is the real opportunity. Those megalomaniacs that now we can own all the infrastructure and infrastructure. I gotta take another sip of water. We can own all this infrastructure and own everybody, right? But this has happened before, and I talked about this before. Does anyone know where the first clinic that addressed gender identity in the Western world is? And I can't speak for like the indigenous groups because they have two spirits, so I'm pretty sure there's always been a lot of acceptance on that side. I don't want to speak on behalf of indigenous people. I'm not indigenous. I apologize if that's a faux pas. Jake Not Really just said it right. Correct. It was in Germany, the Weimar Republic, in the 30s. And what was presented to people was that this growing acceptance of homosexuality and gender identity was the erosion of the family unit, right? It was an attack on traditionalism. And by using that, the Austrian guy was able to say they're coming for your children. And it worked. If you can make people afraid for the lives of their children, because look, that's the one thing that you can bet on, is that either, fathers either love their children or they want to own their children, so they're feverishly protected and see them as property. But either way, they're going to get passionate if you invoke their children, okay? Even though most of them don't have visiting rights or custody, and rightfully so. So they knew that if you can just tell people they're coming for your children, you don't have to supply any sources. These people have been using these bathrooms forever, right? You should be able to drum up hundreds of occurrences. Hundreds, which is actually small, theoretically, considering we're a country of 340 million people, 350 million. So like, even just come up with 10, 15, like this should be happening every week if this was a real problem, but it's not. No one's coming for your children except for white, straight, male Christian men. Like that is traditionally who is most likely to harm a child. Based off all data and all statistics, that's your guy, okay? That is who you should be worried about. But they knew that if they talked about coming for your children, that historically this has always worked. And it did, right? So now you have these people thinking that being a good father means making sure that somebody in Nebraska is not able to play badminton for their college team because they identify their gender. Like, you don't like women's sports. You guys don't care about them. You make fun of them. I've watched the WNBA. I'm an Asia Wilson fan. I watch the Aces, right? Granted, I'm a bandwagon. It was Caitlin Clark that got me to start watching. I really liked the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese rivalry, and I wanted to see both of them. But I came for Clark, and I wound up an Asia Wilson fan. So I watched the Aces. So I follow the team, and what happens? You have a pile of girl dads who care about the sanctity of women's sports in the comments denigrating every woman athlete. She couldn't cover blonde, WNBA is blah, blah, blah. You guys don't care about women's sports. You denigrate the ever-living shit out of the cis women that play these sports. I see it every day. And then on the other hand, women's sports, we must protect them. You won't even protect the cis women in women's sports. You denigrate them all. So this is, again, none of this is real. They don't have beliefs. Someone told me to take a breath, and as much as I don't want to, you're probably right. I'm now at 2 hours and 7 minutes of nonstop talking. I'll probably go like another 10 minutes, and then I want to exhale and watch some football. All right, here we go. So, this is where we are at. They used a time-old tale, a time-old playbook, to be able to groom otherwise normal and reasonable people into becoming unreasonable. And now we all have to suffer. And you know what? Like, a lot of them are going to come out. A lot of them are going to come out of this, right? But the damage is done, right? He already lost the independents. The independents are toast, okay? The Good Life store. Oh, wow, can only be one. Whoever said that, hell yeah, man. That's, I don't want to say. It's one of my companies. I'm not allowed to talk about either of the companies I own. Both of them are banned on here, so you could put two and two together. Find me on LinkedIn, and you can see what I do for a living. But, we are now in this situation where the damage is done. He's lost independence. He's lost a lot of young people, but he's here, right? And there's nothing really that can be done. The 25th Amendment is clearly not going to happen. We're clearly not going to reach a position where they're going to be able to impeach, even if we have free and fair elections and we win the House. Where's impeachment going to go? They're all blackmailed, man. All the Republicans are completely blackmailed. I just saw Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Yeah, he activated the National Guard, and that's great, but the Supreme Court has already told Donald Trump that he's allowed to nationalize the National Guard. And honestly, what do you call it, okay, when the agents of one government are fighting the National Guard of another government? That's civil war, guys, right? Like we've always gone by this idea of the Civil War based off of the 1800s with muskets and lining up and their great battles. But we're in the 21st century. That's not what war looks like anymore, right? There's not going to be boots on the ground. What war looks like right now is what's happening in Minnesota, right? And it's David and Goliath. And I'm going to be on the side of David. Okay? These people, one by one, are going to be brutalized. This is not the end. Trump is a narcissist, a malignant narcissist, probably a psychopath. He has late-stage dementia, and he's Machiavellian. He doesn't have the ability to saber rattle and exert power and not continue exerting that power. That's not something he is capable of doing. They take a bite and then they keep going, right? And the bite was Venezuela. He illegally invaded Venezuela. He kidnapped their leader, okay, which I'm not going to defend Maduro, but I will defend the sovereignty of a nation, especially one we've been meddling with and destabilizing and funding coups against for decades, okay? Since the Monroe Doctrine, okay? Like turn of the century. But he's done that, and nothing happened. And then he's saber rattling with Canada and the Panama Canal and Denmark and NATO, and no one's going to do anything, right? So he's not just going to, ooh, I took Venezuela and I'm done. No, they all expand, right? That would be, did he stop at Poland, that guy in the 30s and 40s? Was he just happy when he took Poland? No, it kept going, and it's going to keep going. And he's going to keep testing the strength of our laws and the international law, and he's going to put us in a position where we're isolated. And then what's going to happen is Europe and all of these other countries are going to impose sanctions, and they're going to stop working with us. And what that's going to do is devalue the US dollar. And we're going to see inflation go through the roof, and the demand is going to exist and increase, and the supply is going to go down. So you're going to get less for your dollar, things are going to cost more, they're going to be harder to be attainable, and all of this because we allowed a man who is a verified Russian agent and owned by that country. And look, I'm Jewish, you know, I have Jewish heritage. My father's Jewish, but he's owned by that country. And now we're in this position because they want chaos. You know, I'll say this, and I will say that the KGB in Russia were very effective in one promise they made, and that was Nikita Khrushchev said, we will take America without firing a shot. We will destroy it from within. And what better way to do it than to take over one of the two major political parties? He did it. It worked. And that's where we're at. All these Republicans that compromise, like that's what it is. It's blackmail, right? Like, you know, he's so dirty. He spent years doing filthy stuff, you know, and it's documented and it's well known by other elites, and they were able to leverage that. And so now we have a Russian agent, you know, who's being blackmailed by that country as well. And he's going to, they want us destroyed, and he's doing it. None of this is for him. He's an idiot. They give him fake trophies. They put fucking cowboy hats on him like a toddler. And they tell him he's special, and they give him fun coins. And then he does what they say. He's a fucking moron. Like, do you understand what a fucking moron this guy is? Imagine the fact that the security of Europe and the existence of NATO depends on if the president gets a trophy. If he gets a gold trinket with his name on it, he might not invade a country. Do you understand? Do you remember when I'm in the stupidest chair ever and I'm trying to get comfortable. Do you understand that the partition, fuck you, anyone laughing, I hate you. Yeah, so do you understand? My wife's going to make fun of that. Do you understand? I'm not going to say that again. Yeah, I am. Do you understand that that is the participation trophy people who spent years thinking it's terrible if a kid who finishes in 7th place gets told they did a good job too? That now he needs that a woman who won a Nobel Peace Prize has to do some ceremonial gifting of it to him for no reason, so that he, in the hopes that he doesn't further brutalize her country and her people. Like, that's where we're at. Our foreign policy is decided by what toys an 80-year-old gets. Josh won. I think Epstein was tied into blah, 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 and he has blah. I do too. I'm just not going to say that. There's a new algorithm. And, I'm not, yeah. But like this is so shockingly pathetic, and this is your alpha. This is the tough guy. This is who they've been photoshopping onto Rambo and saying fuck your feelings, and he's so tough, but he has to be given toys and trinkets so that he doesn't wreak havoc on the world. My friends, we are dealing with the most pathetic man in the world, beyond deranged, understands nothing, does nothing, and people will still stand by him because he's coming through on the only thing he promised, and that is brutality and cruelty. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes. I could keep going. I have not stopped talking. I appreciate anybody who jumped on here and listened. I hate asking for follows, but I would love if you followed me. I am getting a little throttled by the algorithm. I've been putting out videos and I'm kind of stuck in that like 200 to 300 view jail. So rather than trying to penetrate the algorithm, I would much rather just have a truly qualified group of people who share my values and I share their values, so that we can all kind of make sure we know we're not alone. We're not going to end this. No matter how much we talk, we're not going to end this. But at least there's some solace in knowing that there's more of us out there. Yeah, hey, thank you. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm going to jump off. I kind of want to go watch the NFC championship game. Even though the NFL went woke, I still watch it, Grr, football man didn't stand during a song I like, so I'm just not going to watch a sport anymore. No, kidding. You guys rock. Kaepernick was right about everything. And yeah, I'll be back. I'll do this again. Maybe not tomorrow. I live in New England. We're going to get hammered by that snow. Wait, there's no football tonight? The game's tomorrow? Well, no, I'm just kidding. I'm going to jump off anyway. I want to go watch. I didn't know it was tomorrow. I don't know why I still thought it was Saturday. All right. Well, okay, it's going to be Pats Rams, and I think the Pats are going to win. All right? So let's see what happens. All right? But hey, that's right, UFC. I'm going to go bet on that. Anyway, you guys rock. Thank you so much. Shoot me a follow. Appreciate you. And yeah, wow. Oh, wow. A lot of people still in here. Hey, have a good one and try to keep your head up. And remember, they're not the majority. They're just loud. Okay? We'll get through this. We will. It's going to suck, but we're going to get through it. All right. Cheers.